Hey folks, it's Gray here, and today we're going to look at how to store flour for the long term. I was going to get very scientific. As you can see, the notes that I had all kinds of notes, and the wife said, why don't you just show them your process and show them the method that you use to store your flour for long term. And I said, you know what, that is a great idea, because trying to memorize all this is just not going to work for me. All right, folks, so you don't have to listen to me talk for too long. What we're going to do is we're going to jump right into the video, and we're going to talk about how to store your flour for long-term storage. Now, one thing I do want to address before we get into that video is there's several different methods. This is just not the only method, but this is my method, and this is what I like, and this is what works for me. Hopefully, after you watch this video, if you notice any mistakes, please put that down in the comments. Or if you have a different process for storing long-term flour, I'd like to hear that down in the comments as well, because it helps not only inform myself, but it helps inform the rest of the viewers that are coming across this video. Anyway, so that's enough. We're going to go ahead and move on to the video, and let's get this show on the road. All right, folks, so first what we're going to do is make sure that we are organized and we got all the tools necessary to get the job done. We're going to be taking the flour and processing that for long-term storage, extending the life of the flour itself, because most flour that you're going to put on your shelf in your pantry is only going to be good for roughly about 6 months. And so this is a way to extend the life of flour, mainly specifically talking about long-term storage. And I wanted to show you guys something, just so you guys know that it's just not me coming up with some of the stuff. If you look right about here, white flour, 10 to 20 years, white flour. This is basically from Wallaby goods. We're using Wallaby products, their oxygen absorbers, their Mylar bags, just to kind of give them guys a little bit of a plug. And then we're going to, like I said, we're going to be processing this flour. We have something to write on the bags, something to cut the oxygen absorbers open to be placing them in here. And I'm going to show you my process. Everyone may do things a bit different, but this is the way I do it. And I always suggest that everyone follows up with a little bit further more research when you see things on YouTube to see what works best for you, because there's multiple ways to do this. This is just the way I prefer to do it, and I'm going to show you my process. One thing I want to mention is I love the pleated aspects of Mylar versus the regular bags. So I always like to get the pleated bags just because it holds its shape a little bit more when you're trying to put things inside of it. All right, so to give you guys as much information as possible, these are 1 gallon Mylar bags that I'm using. And when you use 1 gallon Mylar bags, you want to use anywhere from minimum 300 to 400 cc's to around 800 cc's. But if you watch some of my videos in the past, I'm a type of person that likes to basically do overkill because I'd rather be safe than sorry. So I'm going to go ahead and cut open my oxygen absorbers. I'm going to dump these out here so that you can see them. And one thing you want to check with your oxygen absorbers is make sure that they're very pliable. If they're really like hard and stiff, that means they're bad. Okay, so now that we have our oxygen absorbers, we're going to go ahead and put these in the bag. I like to do a layering process, which I'll show you. And I also always, when I start prepping things, I want to do it in the most cleanest possible way, because I don't want to clean up a big mess, especially when it comes to flour, because if you spill flour, it's going to create some huge mess that you have to clean up. And if you don't clean it up properly, that will bring bugs. All right, so you can see here I have the Mylar bag in the sink. See how it's pleated? It kind of holds its shape a bit. And if I do make any mess, at least the flour will go into the sink, which will be easily to clean up versus something getting all over your counter or some other space that you're using to process your flour. Initially, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and put 2 of the oxygen absorbers down below. 1 and 2. Throw those in there, and I don't know how well the camera is going to pick this up, but basically I'm going to be dumping flour in there, and then I'm going to pause a few times into that process to add more O2 absorbers. First of all, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this bag and kind of match it up with this bag and dump a little flour in there, which is going to give me its shape. Looks like so far so good. We haven't made a mess yet, but I'm going to go ahead and have that flour settle. So I'm going to go ahead and knock that down a bit. And now that you can see, my bag is a lot easier to dump flour into. So then I'm going to continue that process. And now I can go ahead and put more flour in there. And when I feel that there's enough in there, usually about maybe halfway up or so, because again, these will hold the entire 5 pounds of the flour in these 1 gallon bags. I'm going to go ahead and pause. have it settle a little bit more. Take a couple more O2 absorbers and toss them in there. Like I said, I'm a bit in regards to overkill, but again, to be repetitive, I guess, is I like to be safe than sorry because I want this flour to last a minimum of 10 to 15 years. Okay, so you can see we have all the flour. The bag is now empty. The flour bag, we got all 5 pounds in there with room to spare, which is always great because you want to make sure that you get that seal on there. Now we're trying to make sure this is going to seat well. And then I'm going to put 2 more absorbers on top. So my process is removing every bit of oxygen that I possibly can from this bag so that without oxygen, bugs can't, live. So even if there is anything in here, they won't have the opportunity to hatch in my long-term food storage. One thing I did want to mention is you can use a food saver bag for your flour if this is something that you're just going to keep in the pantry. It's just that you want to keep, for long-term storage, you want to use something that sunlight can't get to. And believe it or not, folks, these food saver bags over time for long-term storage, on the microscopic level, will let oxygen and moisture in here over time. You don't have to trust me on that. You can always look up that information. So Mylar is going to protect from light and oxygen. These work really great, but for long-term storage, I like to use this. For more of my short-term to medium storage, I'll use these. So when you use these O2 absorbers by Wallaby, you'll see that this has like a little pink little indent color right here. And that basically means that this is good to go. It's another kind of like redundancy and checking if the O2 absorbers are good, because then they'll start to change colors. Now if you can see there, sorry about the light from my kitchen, but they go from that color and they start going grayer and grayer and grayer until they get a very dark gray. But you can see how the colors are, and that basically means that oxygen is getting to this. It's kind of like a little check system that they add to their O2 absorber. So this is good to go. I always test them regardless, but and if anything, if you guys are interested in using some of these products, I will put a link for Wallaby down below. I've been associated with the company for quite some time and really love their products. All right, so now we have all of our bags ready to go. We're in the process now that we're going to seal up these bags and remove the oxygen from these bags using the vacuum sealer. But as you can see there, they all pan out right. I have enough room for the seal to be in a proper space that I like. And like I said, everyone's different. Everybody has their processes. But then we're going to go ahead, and I've set this this machine up so that I have it on the vacuum time at 35, the sealing time at 4.5 because it's Mylar, so it needs a little bit more heat than your regular average food saver bags, and also the cooling time, I got it on 4.5, it's just so it's not hot to the touch. I've removed the tray that's usually in here for this vacuum chamber, and we're going to start processing our flour right here. All right, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to carefully place this in there because last thing you want to do is spill flour all over this unit and have to clean that up. So you always want to take your time when processing certain things, specifically like flour, because like I said, it can be very messy. So I'm going to kind of close this a bit, put it in here very slowly, find where I want to have my seal at. These bags actually have a little kind of like a Ziploc seal in here. So you want to leave it just enough open for air to be removed from this. I'm going to set this up. This is my sealer bar right here. So I want the seal to go across this piece here. I'm going to bring this down so that it's set and make sure this is properly aligned. And then we're going to go ahead and seal this bag up. All right, so we have everything lined up the way we want to. The bag's in there good. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and close the vacuum chamber up and start the process. You'll be able to see here that it's removing the oxygen. Countdown's going down. We'll go ahead and look right here from the above angle so that you can kind of see how the machine works. If you haven't seen me do this before, let's say with either the beans or anything else I've used this for. This is personally one of my favorite machines. If you haven't had a chance to watch the review I did on this, go ahead and check it out. I'll put it up. It'll pop up in the video itself, and you can click on that link if you care to watch. And here we go. It is in the sealing process. Now it's in the cooling process, and then it's going to take out all the oxygen. For some reason, I love that part every single time. All right, we're going to go ahead and open this up. Pull this out. Check this to make sure that the seal is good. Put it on the table over here. Make sure that seal is all the way across. There, as you can see there. Again, this also has another inner seal here that you can use to seal to make sure. And you can see that's tough. That's nice, and all the oxygen has been removed out of this. And if there's any residual oxygen in there, the O2 absorbers are going to remove that oxygen. All right, so let's move on to these guys here. And I got to remind myself to write on this bag. I like to write on it afterwards because usually there's a flat surface. It works best for me. Some people will write on the bags prior. But like I said, I'm going to write on it afterwards after I get everything processed, just to make sure that I don't forget any of the bags. All right, now that we got that process done, we have all our bags. Everything is labeled, nice and neat. Everything is checked nice and hard. You always want to check to see if you have anything that's leaking on you. And what I mean by that is you can tell that the bag is not sealed properly. Sometimes you'll run across Mylar that has a hole in it. You can check that prior to doing this by using a dark room and using a flashlight and lighting the inside of the Mylar bag. Just a little trick I've learned. But everything is looking good. I will check on these in a couple of days. You always want to be proactive after you process food and check on it a couple of times before you kind of put it up and forget about it. There's one more process that I'm going to do now that we have this. And the reason I do this is some folks have problems with like rodents and other pests. Some people can just use this part of the process and kind of put these in their pantry. But my problem is that you can't puncture these. They can be punctured. If it falls on something or something happens, they can be damaged. So I take it a step further and follow up with one more thing just to ensure that the flour that I'm processing here and the money that I put into this and the time doesn't go to waste. All right, so my last step is putting these bags of flour in the Mylar with the O2 absorbers inside a 5-gallon food grade bucket. Now some folks are going to say, Grey, you only have 15 pounds of the flour in there, so that's a lot of wasted space here and even in here. So I make it into a triangle like this specifically because usually you can only get 3 to 4 bags in here. But what I'm going to do is the smaller stuff that I have, let's say a 1-pound bag of rice or some beans or anything else like that I have, I will add to this. Maybe I will vacuum seal some baking powder or other things associated with this. And on the outside of the bucket, when I put my label on here, I'll put, white flour, 15 pounds, baking powder, baking soda. Basically, this is a regular bucket, so just going to have a regular bucket lid that's going to go on there. And again, I like to mention this is make sure that you have one of these. You can open these the regular way, but once they get sealed tight, sometimes with buckets stacked on buckets, these things can become pretty complex. And you can use one of these bucket things just to pop these lids off, and it makes things a lot easier. So you're just kind of going to put that under there like that, and you can pop this lid off here, and it's going to make your life that much easier. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and finish this up, get these put away, add a few other things to this that I have that's going to fit in these empty spots, and we'll put that up. Again, I will check on it here in 3 or 4 days, and again in a week or so, and then a final check a month before I kind of set it and forget it. But then after that, folks, it's always good to check on your preps at least every couple of months. Just kind of check on things, make sure that you don't have any holes from mice, make sure you don't have any, when you get into these buckets, make sure that everything is still nice and tight and sealed. You don't have any pests, you don't see any, rodent droppings or anything like that in here, because then you can stop it before it gets really bad. So constantly, just kind of prove it, just like you're going to the grocery store. Just check on things as you move around and check your pantry. Like if you got cans and whatnot, check those, see if anything is going on with those. Make sure everything is in good rotation, and so on and so forth. I'd like to know what your process is. If you store flour for long term, how do you do it? We are also going to touch on the subject about wheat berries. I have something coming up on that. It's something else that I prep in the process of long-term food storage, and it's a more unrefined version of what I got going on here. All right, so that is my method on how to store flour for long term. And again, I'm going to reiterate, that is my method for storing flour for the long term. I suggest everyone follow up with a little bit of research in regards to storing flour. There's, like I said, There's several different methods. This is a method that I enjoy and that I like, that it works for me. Hopefully you got some value out of the video, or maybe you learned something new, some steps that I did that you may not take in the way that you do it. Again, I look forward to reading your comments in regards to ways that you store flour. If you store flour, some folks may not. But I did a video. Some people asked me like, hey, where did you get all that flour from? And I'll put that video up here in the description. It was basically a prepper haul that I did just recently. If you haven't caught that video, check it out if you like to see some of the things that I add to my pantry in the prepper hauls. Like I said, there's a couple of different methods that people like to use. And if you use a different method, I'd like to hear that. And if you notice anything at all that I may have did wrong, or steps that you might take that I didn't take, please put that down below as well. Again, if you got any value, hit that thumbs up button, truly appreciated. And if you're new here, please subscribe and take a look at the rest of the channel. We have a lot of fun here. We talk about all different types of topics in regards to emergency preparedness. And we're going to get back in the swing of things in regards to the gardening and some other stuff. If you get bored next Tuesday, you can celebrate Grey's birthday with him at Tuesday night at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And if you didn't see last night's live stream, we had a good time with Alaska Prepper. Check it out. We had a nice conversation about long-term food storage and how much food is too much. Is there such a thing? Other than that, I'm going to get out of here, folks. Remember, you are not alone. This is GreyMan. I'm out. I'll see you guys in a rebound. God bless, and thank you all for watching.